Today on the Morning Edition, the NTSB releases its final report on the deadly Bering Air crash near Nome. 17 months after 10 people were killed. We'll take a look at the findings. Plus, a verdict reached in a 2019 shooting death outside of a Spinard hotel. What police say the motive was and what a jury has decided. And later, there are many types of roommates. Some are loud, busybodies, always buzzing around and saying they're busy pollinating or something. At least that's what these roommates say. We'll take a look at this indoor beehive as the Morning Edition starts now. Good Friday morning, everyone. We've made it to the weekend. We've been talking about sunshine all week, but in addition to that, we are first alerting you today because with that sunshine is coming some heat, Aaron.
Yeah, we've got a heat advisory that has been issued for a good portion of South Central as we head into this afternoon on into the weekend. That begins at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Temperatures as high as 82 degrees possible across South Central. Now, heat advisories, they're brand new for South Central. They did began to be issued this year. And the biggest reason why is just to better improve upon communication with individuals, which means if you're going to be outside for an extended period of time and you're not accustomed to these temperatures, which is more focused towards tourists, heat illnesses certainly could be possible, largely due to the lower sun angle we have, and we have more of that sun hitting our body. So 70s and 80s here certainly feel a lot hotter than in the lower 48. So that is why we are first alerting you, just to let you know, hey, it's going to be warm outside. Make sure you stay hydrated as we head into the weekend. 50s is to be expected. Start off the morning, of course, for the most part. The pleasant conditions continue each and every day, and we are watching those slightly cooler conditions to start off the morning as we've been holding in the 40s and the 50s for each and every day this week. So pleasant weather certainly has been with us, but today is going to be the day as well as into the weekend where we're going to begin to see some of those warmer conditions building in across South Central. Again, beautiful to start off the morning, but we will see those temperatures climbing as we head throughout the day. Now, some of the warmest conditions will be north into the Susitna Valley as well as along parts of the Sterling Highway. Some areas may actually stay in the 60s today, but due to the nature of the topography of South Central, we'll see some areas easily climbing into the upper 70s, possibly some lower 80s through the weekend. Here, as you head into the interior, that should be for Anchorage, but we will see those temperatures topping out in the 70s from South Central through the interior. Gorgeous weekend for many. Rain does move in next week with gusty winds expected to develop as rain moves in. I'll have more on that in that 7-day forecast coming up.
NTSB investigators say the deadly Bering Air crash near Nome wasn't just a tragedy, it was a preventable one. The NTSB's final report blames heavy ice and an overloaded plane and calls out an ongoing safety failure. Johnson Kuhn dug deeper into the final report with NTSB Chairwoman Jennifer Homendy.
The Cessna Grand Caravan EX departed Juneau on February 6, 2025, carrying 9 passengers plus the pilot. As it descended toward Nome, it flew into severe freezing drizzle. But the NTSB discovered the plane was already at a critical disadvantage.
What we found was chronic underreporting of weights on aircraft.
The plane took off 1,000 pounds past the maximum weight limit for icing conditions. Recovered avionics show the fuel on board weighed an additional several hundred pounds more than logged.
It is significant, and it was common in Bering Air.
Here at Nome, we got both runways closed.
Air traffic controllers in Nome asked the pilot to slow down until the runway was de-iced. As he did, the autopilot turned off and the slow, overweight plane stalled. Investigators confirmed it was flying at just 52 knots before it crashed into Norton Sound sea ice.
But part of this also is FAA's oversight.
Chairwoman Homendy expressed concern about the recent changes to the industry in Alaska affecting Bering Air.
The fact that they became the sole passenger carrying operator once Raven became bankrupt significantly changed their operations. They became bigger, they were conducting more flights. That should have warranted increased oversight.
For other pilots feeling the commercial pressure to fly overweight under dangerous icy skies, the chairwoman delivered a blunt directive.
So say no and push back.
Johnson Kuhn, Alaska's news source.
Bering Air says it's added new weight limits and icing training for its pilots since the crash. But the FAA has not acted on the NTSB's call for updated flight records. Hamidi met with the families of the victims this week.
I can only imagine that the past 17 months have been really difficult for them. And, you know, we just released the report. They haven't quite absorbed everything. And so I imagine they will have a lot of other questions. But going through with them our process, what our investigative process is, who was on scene, at what we looked at, what we said were not factors, like the mechanical condition of the airplane, but then focused on what were factors. And so they had questions about what we found.
Several families are involved in a joint civil suit against Bering Air, claiming negligence and wrongful death. When asked about what the findings mean to the suit, attorney Clay Robbins, who represents the estate of Talala Kachatag, said in a statement, "We appreciate the efforts of the NTSB. Our investigation continues and is unaffected by the findings and conclusions." Now, let us take a moment to remember who was on that flight. 10 lives were lost and 10 families changed forever. Georgina Fernandez hears again from families who spoke with us in the days after the crash.
The rule is you have to text landed, and he didn't text landed.
For Stacy Monker, the first sign something was wrong was from the text that never came.
Can you try to raise Bering Air 445?
And the air controllers were also watching the same story unfold on their screens.
They just dropped off our radar at a high rate of descent. Now they are not responding.
A missing text, a vanished flight, and a wave of grief that spread far beyond one family.
Everybody is tight-knit, close together, and feeling this type of pain, it rings throughout the entire region.
Completely heartbroken. But faithful. And know that I'll get to be with him again.
Loved ones are remembering the 10 people who died on February 6, 2025, during a routine flight from Juneau to Nome.
My hand is empty. You know, I think that is quite possibly the thing I miss the most.
Empty hands, voids felt everywhere.
Well, I think honestly there's going to be a great big hole because JD is the one that everybody calls.
For nearly 18 months, family members have shared with us who their loved ones were.
She was very into sculpture. My mom would display her sculptures all around the house. But she just did everything she touched, like had a bit of like artistic flair to it. So she could really do anything.
He loved his kids and he always talked to them, always expecting phone calls from them. He was everybody's friend.
The communities around them have stood up.
And then all of our sales today are also going to them.
Okay, perfect.
Helping to hold families together during an unimaginable time.
I can't imagine going through something like this. So taking time out of my day to come support in any way that I can is just so important.
As families sat waiting for answers, they never stopped telling stories of the 10 people they lost and the crash that changed their lives forever. Georgina Fernandez, Alaska's news source.
Our thanks to the families who continue to share their stories. You can learn more about the victims and read the final NTSB report on our website, as well as our mobile app. Meantime, an Anchorage jury has found a man guilty of a 2019 shooting death outside of a Spinard hotel. Radames Marmolejos was found guilty of second-degree murder and robbery for the death of Oscar Garcia. Police say Garcia was shot 13 times in a vehicle over a botched $550 drug debt. Marmolejos will be sentenced in January. Co-defendant Elijah Ramirez, also convicted of second-degree murder, is due to be sentenced in October. Juneau police are asking for the public's help as they investigate the suspicious death of Ross Pasquan. His remains were found this month in a chest freezer at a Glacier Highway property. Detectives believe he may have died years ago and say they are trying to learn why no one reported him missing.
Well, any time a death is concealed, there's two questions you have to ask. One is, why was it concealed, and was that because it was a homicide? And the other is, what does somebody have to gain from this person's death?
Police say they are investigating all possibilities, but they do not believe there is any threat to the public. Anyone who spoke with or saw Pasquan within the last 5 to 10 years is asked to contact the Juneau Police Department. For Randy Elliott, the deadly plane crash in McCarthy this week is not just another headline. It's the moment he lost his son's fiance, and a friend he called an excellent pilot. Now he talks about grief, unanswered questions, and the life his son was just beginning in the Alaska bush. Lauren Maxwell reports.
Randy Elliott knows he may never get the answers he wants. What led to the death of his 23-year-old son, Anadir, Anadir's 19-year-old girlfriend, Jing, and Jason Lobo, a local pilot that he'd known and trusted for decades.
This was an excellent pilot who did something for no reason. The engine quit for some reason. We don't know. We'll probably never know. There's just no way to tell.
The plane was coming in for a landing Monday evening at Dan Creek, a gold mining community about 20 miles east of McCarthy. Investigators say instead of touching down, the pilot made a left-hand turn, hit the ground, and the plane burst into flames. Randy Elliott said his son, who graduated from Wasilla High, had recently moved from Arizona. He and his girlfriend were flying to Dan Creek to begin working the mining claims that Randy has held for years.
If you're in the bush of Alaska, it's difficult to explain, but your children don't stay here. So when one of them decides to come back and do the same business, it's very gratifying. Makes you feel like your life is maybe worthwhile.
Now he's mourning the lives of 3 people who were close to him, including pilot Jason Lobo, a longtime McCarthy resident who friends say could be a bit of a character, but who they called a kind and generous man. Lauren Maxwell, Alaska's news source.
Still ahead today on the morning edition, several teens and kids walked into a youth summit and came out with goals, ambitions, and the drive to better and improve themselves and those around them. We'll take a look at the process coming up.
And we've got heat advisories across South Central as we head through the afternoon on into the weekend. I'll time out those details as well as rain heading our way next week. But first, sunrise, 5:30 in Anchorage, 4:47 in Juneau. Your full forecast is next.
Welcome back in on this Friday morning. Look how stunning this shot coming from our photojournalist, Courtney Simmons, who's out there at Westchester Lagoon. We've been talking about the sunshine all week, Aaron, and it is here finally just in time for the weekend. Unfortunately, also is a heat advisory.
Yeah, and we're seeing those heat advisories. This is, to my knowledge, I believe this is the first one that we've seen issued in South Central, as they were beginning this year back in June. Now, again, these are brand new being issued here in South Central, just to get ahead of the public health risk with this, particularly for those who are vulnerable to those heat illnesses. This is not saying this is record-breaking temperatures and temperatures that we don't tend to see here in South Central, because we do. Again, it's just alerting you to the public health risk for those who are on the vulnerable side. So back-to-back weekends of sunshine and warmth, heat advisories for South Central into the weekend. And we've also got some gusty winds that will develop over the Alaska range as we welcome in next week. There's the heat advisories we've got across South Central. You can see the bulk of them across western fringes of the region, while out towards McCarthy, as well as southern parts of the Copper River region, up under that heat advisory as well. That continues through 9 p.m. Sunday, while the rest of South Central sees the heat advisory until 9 p.m. tomorrow evening. And that is for heat-related illnesses may occur in those not accustomed to the heat. And we're talking about the potential that highs could top out near 82 degrees. Now, things are fairly quiet to start off your Friday, and we're going to continue to see the stretch of sunshine carrying us on into the weekend. That, combined with that lower sun angle that we tend to see here in Alaska compared to the lower 48, will make it feel a lot hotter outside. Warm conditions continue to stay with us. That ridge will skirt just to our south, driving in some of those warmer conditions as we head into the weekend. This is going to stay with us through at least Sunday, and then as we welcome in next week, we're going to be watching another area of low pressure that's going to sweep into the state. And this is going to drive in some rain as well as some winds. And we're also going to be talking about some cooler conditions in the forecast as we head through the first part of next week. We'll see those temperatures today warming into the 70s, possibly near 80 degrees through parts of the valley. Now, again, due to the nature of the topography of South Central, some areas may actually stay in the 60s as we head throughout the day. But as you head through parts of the Susitna Valley, along the Sterling Highway, East Anchorage, this is where we're going to easily see those temperatures topping out well into the 70s and possibly some 80-degree readings. So locations in the 60s, the heat advisory is not for you. It's really for those areas where we're going to see that potential for those highs to climb into the upper 70s and some lower 80s. So we are heating up across the region. You can see some of the warmest conditions as you head north into the valley, as well as through the Copper River Basin and then out towards McCarthy. We stay dry into the weekend with plenty of sunshine to be expected. And then as we close the door on this week and welcome in next week, clouds do begin to move in from the west. And we're going to be watching our next storm system which will bring rain through early next week. This does not look to kickstart another wet weather pattern, but we will see that increase in rainfall as we head through the first part of next week. This will actually drive our highs back down into the lower 60s as we head into the first part of next week. So that will bring some reprieve from these warmer conditions. You can see those temperatures, though, across the state today. 50s through the Aleutians, 60s out towards southeast, even along the slope. We're expected to see those temperatures warm into the 50s and the 60s. So we are first alerting you today and into tomorrow for that heat advisory. And again, those as we head into next week, we're going to see those temperatures cooling off with some rain showers.
All right, thanks, Aaron. A 7th grader walked into the Alaska Youth Summit this week not knowing what to expect. He walked away saying he wants to be a better person. Danny Tompkins joins us live to tell us more about what these students learned. Hey, Danny.
Hi, Kristen. This event was for students from 6th grade to 12th grade, and it was at Central Middle School. The students tackled some heavy topics, including identity, addiction, suicide prevention, and team building activities. And the last day started with this, the human knot, where students had to work together to get untangled. This year's summit was a bit different. For the first time, 3 organizations joined forces: the Anchorage Youth Court, the Polynesian Association of Alaska, and Keys to Life. Together, they built a 3-day experience around the idea that young people can step out and make a difference.
I think what I love to see is when there's a student that's sitting quietly by themselves, and then all of a sudden you see them kind of scooch a little bit closer to the other students, and then they start interacting. That's my favorite part, is to see those peer-to-peer interactions happening in an organic way.
We did an activity about personalities, and I figured out my personality and some bad traits about it. And I really want to fix that because it's just, in my opinion, I just don't like that. I just want to be someone people can rely on.
That student, Warren, was one student who left with something they didn't bring in, a goal. During the summit, students also led their own conversations, worked in groups, and created art. Each activity designed to push them a little closer together. Now, the Alaska Youth Summit, or the Alaska Youth Court, hopes students take away one thing they learned this week that they can bring into their day-to-day life. And they're already planning next year's summit to reach even more students. Kristen.
All right, thanks, Danny.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcasts from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting. Available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.